Hey guys, good morning. This is Cynthia. Welcome to my page. So I know a lot of people has been asking on instructions on how to make grits. I myself struggled with that for a while because I would over add grits, and we all know grits and rice and things like that expands over time, like once it gets in the water and kind of like starts boiling. So you really don't need to put a lot depending on how much you're making, but if you're making a small amount, you only need to add a little bit of grits. You can't really tell with the spoon method, as they would say, put the spoon in the center and let it stand. That don't really work with grits for me. But what I do find helpful is by kind of stirring it into the water as you add, to kind of get a consistency of how much water to grits ratio, kind of, because you need a little bit extra water in it to kind of boil so it doesn't get too thick once it starts soaking up the water, and enough to kind of let it cook a little bit too. So I usually would just add more water than I would need. I find it very helpful to use a nonstick pot. I've noticed when I used to make it in like a regular pan, it would kind of like get stuck and lumpy and things like that. It didn't really cook as smooth as it would with a nonstick pan. So today I am going to show you how I make my grits in a nonstick little pan. And this usually feeds a family of about 4 just by making this small little pot here. We don't really eat a lot, so we do portion our food, but this may help somebody out there as far as to cooking grits. And if you like my video, drop a like down below, subscribe, and let me know any comments that you have. So this right here is the water boiling. I normally just add a little bit of olive oil or vegetable oil to kind of help with the sticking. I know some people use butter, and with this seasoning here, you really don't. So you really don't need to add any salt with this seasoning here. Really would give it all of the salt that it needs. This right here is my grits already pre-washed, and the olive oil that I use, sometimes vegetable oil. And this is my pan of water already boiling. So as I mentioned, you just need to add a little bit of pretty much everything, but you want to add a little bit extra oil where it's enough for the grits to cook in and not get lumpy and stuck together. And this right here, I normally would add this as my salt. So 1 second. So you don't want to add too much of this, because this, like I mentioned, does has its own salt. So you just want to add just a little bit of that and kind of just let it boil. And then once you add the grits, just kind of keep an eye on it. One second here, let me turn it so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Alright, so I'm just getting the grits in there, and I'm gonna let you see how it looks once you're done adding it. So once you're done adding your grits, it should look something like this, where you can kind of pick up some of the grits without it, with it some extra water in there. As you can see, it's enough grits in there to boil down. So we're just gonna let that cook a little bit. You can see how it's kind of boiling down here. So as it boils, it usually would start to get a little bit thicker. You can't really tell here in the video, but the water is getting a little bit thicker as the grits boil more. And because the water was already boiling, so it's pretty hot, where the grits is probably like halfway cooked by now, because it doesn't take long. Normally, once I'm done adding the grits in, I usually would like to cover it, because it helps the grits cook and do its thing. So here you can see how the grits is like getting a little bit more thicker in the water, because it's expanded now. So I just let that cook down a little bit more. And as it's cooking, once it starts getting a little bit thicker and drier, as you can see here, I don't know if you can tell, but it is getting thicker. As you can see, the water is like getting thicker. So now it's boiling down. So you would just, you want to stir it a little bit and just keep an eye on it, making sure that it's not a little bit of water just fell over there, little drop. But yeah, so just keep an eye on it so it doesn't over dry. You know, you can see here now, you can see more of the grits. Even I only added just a little bit. You don't need a lot. You want to have enough water in there for it to cook down. So I got the stove on 5, actually 6 right now. So just let that cook down. And it doesn't take long at all, really. I can make this within like maybe 5 to 10 minutes in the morning with some grits and bacon and things like that for the family. So you really can just do it really quick. And as you can see, it's cooking down and it's getting thicker, but the oil is helping keep the grits from sticking. So anytime you move it around, you don't see any lumps, any clumps, you know. And if you can taste it, it already has salt. And this, I highly recommend this Maggi because it's pretty much called chicken bouillon, but in Creole we call it Maggi, as it's already listed. It has like really good flavor. I don't even know how to explain the flavoring, but it's really delicious. So with the salt and the flavoring, it kind of gives it like that chicken. It's not really a chicken flavor, but as I mentioned, like it's some kind of seasoning already in there that is really delicious. So you can see now, you see, it's more gritsy. So it's a little bit thicker. Let it cook down. And depending on how thick or how hard dry you like your grits, you would just let it cook till it gets to that amount. And sometimes you would just wait till it gets a little bit thicker like it is now. I'm turning the stove down on 3, and because you want to turn it down now once it gets to a little bit drier, either put it to like 2 or 3 depending on how hot your stove gets. But usually for me 2 would work as it gets you know, drier and things like that. So as you can see here now, it's pretty much just like simmering because there's not a lot of water left. And at this point, once it gets like this, you're fine to add your cheese on top. I would just usually take like a slice or 2 of cheese, put on top depending on how cheesy you like your grits. Just lay it right on there and cover it up. You already turned the stove down and you just kind of let it simmer. So as you can see here inside the pot, it's still cooking. And this is what pretty much I feel like helps it get to, it's like cooked all the way through. The water breaks down and dissolves a little bit faster, and now it's kind of just going to be simmering. If you want to put it a little bit lower just in case you are afraid of burning it or over drying it, do so. But I do feel like the olive oil does help keep the grits from burning or over drying if you happen to have it on too high or forgot that the grits was on the stove because you went to the bathroom or got the kids dressed and things like that. But yes, now, you know, honestly at this point, if you added the cheese, you know, you're fine to pretty much you know, eat it if you wanted to. Now see, now it's pretty much just grits. And I don't like mine too thick and I don't like it too dry. So this right here, once I add the cheese, it'll give it a little bit more thickness. You would pretty much be ready to eat, you know. And you would just take it and put it into your plate, and breakfast is served. So let me know how you like this video. Like me to show you how to cook something else. If you would like maybe where I get these items from, I can let you know. But you pretty much find these at every store. The Maggi, you find that at almost every Hispanic store. Even Walmart, I believe you will find it. So it's pretty much everywhere. But just let me know how you like this video and drop a comment down below. Thank you.